From the hallowed halls of the Profit Center, Epic Financial Strategies, here in the Epic Production Studios in Red Bank, New Jersey, we are Infinity X, giving a stage and microphone to human excellence in the continued pursuit of creating infinite sales opportunities by interviewing megapreneurs, people that are doing massive things in business. And tonight is absolutely no different. Happy New Year to everybody. We are thrilled to be back. This evening, we are joined by a certified holistic life coach who has a master's degree in metaphysical counseling, has written 2 books, Intimacy, Into You and Me I See, and The Domino Effect, has over 180,000 followers on Instagram, a podcast, Transparent with Tina, and also on YouTube, Tina TV, seen on Market Watch, AP, Fox News, ABC, and Yahoo Finance. We are joined this evening by Tina Marx. How are you tonight, Tina?
I'm fantastic, Parker. How are you?
Doing really, really well. And Happy New Year to you. Thrilled to thank you. Thrilled to have you on. And Tina, I am joined to my left by my partner, the CEO of Epic Financial Strategies, Mr. Rob Gill. Rob, how are you this evening?
Hey, what's up, Dave? How you doing, brother?
Great.
Happy New Year
to you, buddy.
Tina, Happy New Year. It's so nice to meet you, and what an unbelievable resume.
Oh, thank you, Rob. That's very kind. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you too, and Happy New Year.
Yes, and thank you for being part of the show. Where are you originally from?
Originally from, well, I was born in Los Angeles. When I was 9 months old, we moved down to Rancho Mirage, which is near Palm Springs in California. And so I grew up there, went away for boarding school, lived in a lot of different places, moved back. And I just moved to Newport Beach, California in May.
Wow, unbelievable. Thank you for sharing that. And so you grew up on the West Coast, basically. You grew up in California.
And you're from the East Coast, but both my parents are from the East Coast, and I actually spent time in DC and in New York as well.
Which part of New York? Do you,
yeah, the upper, yeah, in the city, it used to be called Hell's Kitchen, 59th and 10th.
What were you doing in Hell's Kitchen?
Well, I would walk across the park. It was really funny that you asked that, Rob, because when I first went there, I was taking I secured a job there, it was a talent agency, and I was working for it on the West Coast. And then I said, I really want to move to the East Coast. So I got promoted. So I was working for the president. So I used to take a taxi across town.
Wow.
I was so scared. And then I graduated, I think, to a bus. And then I finally graduated to walking.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And listen, unbelievable social media presence. Obviously, a life coach, and some of the things that David was reading. The one thing that stood out in my head was, are you going to be a life coach in the metaverse? Are you going to be handling all the folks that are stepping into the metaverse world? What
is the metaverse?
Exactly.
I thought I might, but I'm like not watching the news much these days. So
well, that's a good thing. But basically the metaverse is like where Facebook is going. It's called the metaverse, right?
Yeah, I think it is called the metaverse.
So like you could buy real estate in the metaverse, and there's I guess what was that movie? The Avatar. There's an avatar of you that's inside this metaverse, and they're selling real estate, and we're all going to go in business meetings inside the metaverse with.
Well, we kind of are doing that right now on Zoom, aren't we? Right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
And I've been coaching with the same organization for over 4 years, and I've always done Zoom calls because I have clients from all over the country.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
So when you do coaching, is it individual? Is it business? Is it marriage? Is it like, what is the criteria to work with you?
I primarily coach real estate agents. So I work for Tom Ferry International. So I coach real estate agents all over the country. And so I'm labeled as a business coach, but I call myself a peak performance coach because more than half the time, it really doesn't have anything to do with business. It has to do with your mindset. Yeah. And so, I feel like that's my area of expertise is, I'm very, compassionate, empathetic. I've been there. I've had so many experiences. So like, I've never had a client come to me and say, this is what happened. And I'm like, I wish I could understand, but I don't. I mean, I do.
Wow, Tina, you just opened up so many different things for me. Thank you for that, by the way. And one of the things that's kind of just sticking out in my head, because whenever I do videos and we talk about money and money mindset, if you don't wake up in a peak state, right? If you don't wake up with your goals and objectives in line with your, let's just talk about money, investment philosophy, if you don't have the right kind of questions that you ask yourself, empowering questions, if you're not aware of, how you wake up every day in a disempowering mindset and what you need to do to change that within the first 5 or 10 minutes that you wake up, then you're just going to repeat over and over what really got you there. So peak performance in real estate, Tom Ferry, are you doing business with EXP or is this independent from that?
Well, EXP is a brokerage, and I'm
Yep.
not active in real estate anymore because, of course, I have the podcasts and I have the
But
YouTube
as far
channel.
as the agents
Oh,
themselves,
yeah, I have agents that work for EXP.
got it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
'cause-
it's a great, Grant Cardone came on not too long ago, and
Awesome.
there's great stock options. I wouldn't recommend that for an early agent. They need more hand holding, and, it's a virtual brokerage. So, that's, I would think, more for a seasoned agent or somebody that really has had a lot of sales experience. There is that anomaly that comes through
Yeah.
that, but you know what, going back to kind of what you said, and, I have all my clients. And I can really relate to this, Rob, because I am not that person that wakes up cheerful singing with the birds.
Yes.
I'm just not that person. I have become a morning person because I choose to live my life that way. So it's not like I wake up, oh, I can't stand to wake up, although there are those days like that. But I just
Yep.
don't, I have to get myself there.
Yes.
So, there's a book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Oh,
it.
wow. No, I love the way it sounds though.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's you should, I have all my clients read that and get into that. And I've got to tell you, whenever I feel like a client is going sideways,
Yep.
I'm like, how's your morning routine? Well, I haven't practiced it. I'm like 100%, not
Yeah.
90%, not 80%. And just a brief synopsis of that book. It's the acronym is SAVERS. Okay, so S is for silence, A is for affirmation, V is for visualization, E is for exercise, R is for reading, and S is for scripting. And you can
Wow.
actually do, and it's actually a movie on Amazon Prime, so you can rent it for $3.99 if you don't want
Actually, I can't. I thank you for that. That's phenomenal. And let me ask you this, Tina Marx, and thank you for telling me where you are right now. Between boarding schools and it sounds like you did move a lot around at some point in your life based on what you shared. Maybe I misunderstood that. But how did that lead you to where you are now? Like what happened in those years between 10 and 25 that eventually led you to be a peak performance coach and all the wonderful things that you're doing right now?
Okay, so 10 to 25. Okay, well, in my first book, The Domino Effect, I share everything about what happened in my life. And, and I was writing the book. I didn't realize I was writing a book. I thought I was journaling because I got in the habit of journaling. So the first part of the book is talking about that we're not born with a fear-based mindset. That is something that is learned. Okay, our natural state is one of faith, knowing we can do it. I mean, just look at any child before he's been tainted. Okay, they're not afraid of anything. They know exactly. You ask any 6-year-old, what do you want to do? I want to be a fireman. I want to be. They know what they want to do. We become very confused as adults because we've been, conditioned. I write about that in the book. We've been conditioned by authoritarian figures, by primary caretakers, whoever it is that was telling us we cannot do this. Okay, so we become really shut down. And I was no different. I had a really scary dad. I mean, I was, living in. Look, there's a lot of people that had a lot worse. I mean, I had the background. I came from a very affluent background where I had tennis lessons and a pool in the backyard, grew up on a golf course, went to tennis camp every summer, dancing lessons. I mean, very affluent, but I never had felt so afraid and so alone because the message from my father, nothing was ever good enough. I say this over and over, and I'd be in a tennis tournament. I'd win the tennis tournament. What were you doing in the second set? And it's interesting that we're having this conversation right now because I was thinking about this today, and I was walking, and I thought, it's the first time it's really actually hit me in between my eyes, and I thought, Tina, you do that to yourself now. Somebody was saying, my friend of mine texts me and goes, wow, you're really blowing up. Look at all your followers. And I'm like, to me, I'm like, that's not that many followers. See, I'm doing it to myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
achieved something and I've got to learn. I tell my clients to do this. Stop and praise yourself of
That's
how
right.
far you've come, but
Yeah.
always the teacher, not the
No,
preacher.
no,
Not,
thank you. Listen, so thank you for that. And when you played tennis, this was obviously during the time you were in boarding school. Is that correct, or is it?
oh, I started with a racket in my hand at 4 years old. If you remember Chrissy Everett,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I had two coaches. He was one of my coaches, and he told my father that I could be another Chrissy Everett. So that,
Wow.
that was
And
a
how
lot of
long?
pressure.
What
That was
year did you play tennis till? How old?
uh, as long as I didn't have to.
Okay.
And to
Got
be
it.
honest with you, all those years of training, uh, I can't get the block out of my head now. So I've turned, and when I moved to Newport Beach, we have tennis courts where I live, and I got a new racket, and I thought, you can do this, Tina. You can
Yeah.
beat that voice in your head. And I just, you know what? It's something that I'm just laying down and I'm taking up pickleball instead. That I know, I'm crushing it there. I can do that. You know what I mean?
Yes, and you just reminded me of something because I played basketball from, let's say, I don't know, age 8 through 2 years of college. And then, when I got into my professional career on Wall Street, I may have played from age, let's say, 24 to about 28 or 29. The thing that when I think about what you're saying, although I became a pretty good basketball player, I never liked the way I felt when I played basketball.
Thank you very much.
You
I
just
can't
triggered
change
that.
that.
Yeah, you
I
just
can't.
triggered that thought.
I had a fabulous
Wow.
teacher here that I probably
Interesting.
took 10 lessons with. He's like, and then what he had me doing this one, it was just kind of like, I believe in God and I believe in signs. He
Yep.
changed my whole forehand and backhand. No, actually my forehand, not my backhand, because I have a two-handed backhand. He was changing my I'm like, this on top of everything, this is just, it's not fun for me.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Just pressure that's like, I feel like I'm an egg in a boiling pot and I'm gonna crack.
Yep. Yep. And it's
So
funny, I didn't realize what I wanted to do in life until I started doing it in life. And that's really educate and help people with money. You know what I mean? So, and with that, by the way, through the years, I've become a Tony Robbins Platinum partner. I have
oh, nice.
2 partners that are, in the space of peak performance, corporate coaching, individual coaching, real estate. One of our partners is Chris Crone. He's a guy on YouTube that has a lot of subscribers, like about 700,000.
Mhm.
But he really focuses on real estate investments. And then
Mhm.
our other partner, Sean Callaghy, which is really what this show was dedicated after. He owns a corporate coaching company called Unblinded, where he's also an attorney here in New Jersey. And his law firm was #1 in revenue recovery when it came to medical professionals. I bring that up here because he's the one that taught us on how to, what we like to call, merge ecosystems, where you have an ecosystem, we have an ecosystem instead of a BNI group. And if we combine our ecosystems, we could do business with each other inside that ecosystem. And
Mhm.
for us, this model has taken us from 7 to 8 to over 700 to 800 new sales meetings a month. It's been incredible.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. With great platform.
yeah, it's unbelievable. So we started this channel based on, the original name was How to 19 Extra Sales. But because I believe in transformational vocabulary, I said, well, let's change that name, because then we're only going to go to 19. We want to go to infinity, right? So that's
Exactly.
where Infinity X came from. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. When you always never put a ceiling on what you want, so if you want to make X, like I have a number in my mind, what I want to make a month. And I say that number, but I say or more. That's part of my attitude.
I
I
love
always say
that.
or more. I have this much money in the bank or more, because
That's a good or
the
more.
universe is always listening. And it's a proven fact. I don't know if you know who Dr. Amen is, but he is
No.
probably one of the biggest brain doctors, not only in the country, but probably in the world. He's been on Dr. Oz. He talks in his book called Your Brain is Always Listening. It's so true. It's everything is being recorded in your subconscious mind. And if you don't want to be limited, do not always say or more. Like I have a client today that said, I hate to do that. And I said, up until now. You hate to do that? I mean, do you still want to hate to do that? And she's like, no. I'm like, then say up until now. You got to neutralize the thought.
That's
right?
true. So the folks that are listening right now, any entrepreneurs out there that are stuck or can't break through the ceiling of complexity that they're in. Some of the folks out there that maybe just hitting a certain amount of numbers or can't really get out of the environment that they're in that would allow them to really elevate. What would you say to them from a strategic standpoint? Obviously, you don't know all the particulars, but in general terms, that could help them drive and break out and break through the different outcomes that they've never seen before.
Well, something you said earlier, Rob, is awareness. Okay. Until you're aware of what you're thinking and what's coming out of your mouth, nothing can change. Right. So there are on average 55,000 thoughts going through our minds every single day. 55,000. Okay. Average person, 85% of those thoughts are negative self-limiting beliefs. Now, how many are you conscious of? How many of those thoughts are you conscious of? You can't be conscious of 55,000. I don't even think you're conscious of 100 really a day. Are you? Maybe. I don't know. So, first be consciously aware. Let me back up a little bit. I have my master's in metaphysics, and the premise of that is cause and effect. If you don't like your effect, change the cause. Okay. So if you don't like what your life looks like, look at what you're saying to yourself and look at what your thoughts are. All right. And I'm talking about even in jest, if you say, oh, I'm so stupid, it's being recorded. It's always being recorded. Do you notice those people that say I'm broke? They stay broke.
That's right.
It kind of goes along with fake it till you make it. And that's what affirmations are all about. And they feel a little bit strange in the beginning when you are not where what you're saying you are. Like, my numbers are pretty high of what I'm saying that is in the bank and what I'm making every month, because I'm like, go big or go home. But you know what? If you keep repeating that to yourself, guess what? I'm getting closer and closer to that goal. And it's just, if you understand, it's really scientifically based and your brain is an order. Your subconscious mind is an order taker. It cannot decipher whether you want that or you don't want that. Okay. So well, of course, if I was saying I was broke, of course I don't want to be broke. No, that's not the way it works. Study a little bit more about how your brain and your mind works. Right?
So I have a question for you, Tina. So let's say if somebody's beginning to hit their goals, or in the past when you hit your goals, what is something that because I've learned that I typically hit my goals, but the feeling isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I may have hit it, may have taken a little bit longer than I thought, like a life condition versus a blueprint. But the thing that always stands out is, I thought it was going to feel a little bit different, right? Do you have a strategy for folks that are really goal oriented and are beginning to hit their targets on how to take that next step forward, where they maybe don't, because there was a time in my life where, in 2008, 9, and 10, we were, business was booming, but we stopped doing the things that got us to the place where our business was booming. So we became stagnant. And once you're stagnant, you're moving backwards. And then when you're moving backwards, you're exposed to a lot of things that you can't control.
I like that you said that when you're stagnant, because people think if they just kind of park themselves, they're staying in the same place. You're not, because laws of physics are saying, we're moving around the sun, or the sun's moving around us. Laws of physics prove that just because you stop it doesn't mean you stay in the same place. You're actually moving backwards. So that was very important to say that. I think the answer to that question would be, why are you doing what you're doing? Okay, for if it's just for a dollar amount, that's never going to be enough to push you to be where you want to be. It's we call it your whys. So when I get on, I'm doing a business plan with one of my clients. I'm like, I want to make $1 million this year. That's fantastic. I'm sure you can. Why do you want to do it? Well, and then you have to have really strong whys and very, very specific. Okay. So you can't hit a bullseye unless you're very specific with your aim, right? If it's the more specific you are, the chances are you're going to reach your goal. But, you have to, it comes from an emotional place. Our behavior comes from an emotional place. Okay. Your thoughts control your behavior. Your thoughts control your emotions control your behavior. So it really better light something up inside of you and that would make you hit your goal. And if you're, that is where my heart really goes out to helping people, because I lived that life for years and years and years and years. I was going job to job, and my family thought I was fickle. I'm like, no, I haven't found my purpose yet. once
Yep.
I found it, I ran with it and I failed. I mean, I've said this on other shows. I lost everything. I lost over $1 million and I started from the ground up again. And
Awesome.
here I am. I'm better than where I ever was. I'm a single mom. I don't have a partner. I mean, this is all me.
I love
You know,
it. Don't call it a comeback. So you said that thoughts create emotions, emotions create behaviors, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix your thoughts? What is the actionable exercises you do to change your thinking?
Okay, so the savers that I was talking about earlier, okay,
Yep.
so meditation calms your mind down, okay, because if your
Yep.
mind is if you are overwhelmed and you're feeling anxious, then you get into paralysis analysis, okay, because that's what most of all of us do. It gets too overwhelming. It's like, how am I going to do this? I don't know how I'm going to do this. And so now instead of just doing something, we do nothing, right? I listen to something inspiring. I listen to a podcast. I'm reading all the time. I'm surrounding myself with people that are better, are going better places with me. I mean, for years, I always felt more comfortable kind of being at the top of the pack, if you know what I'm saying. Like I was doing better than everybody else, but I had nobody to aspire to. And I wasn't filled with any kind of motivation. So affirmations, being grateful. Grateful is, you know, I mean, I'm telling you, because this is really an interesting story. I took the last 2 weeks off of December, and I have not done that in 4 years. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to do whatever I want. And I learned a very important lesson because I was like, I wasn't doing my morning routine because I was like, oh, I'm going to flip on some like Netflix at 8 a.m. That's so decadent. You know what I mean? I don't get to do that. I'm already coaching people at 8:30 in the morning, right? And what I found was I was more anxious and restless than I've ever been in my life. I'm like, and I had gotten away from my morning routine.
Yeah.
My mind, when it's left to its own devices and too much time, I think most people, it's not a good thing. And for me, I have 4 different kinds of ADD. So
How many kinds are there?
There's 7. There's 7, and
I
that's
probably
what,
have all of them.
if you
so-
do, we'll talk later. I could tell you some things that are all natural to take because it's been a game changer for me. I learned it from Dr. Amen.
I love to hear about it, especially if it's natural. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. So Dave, so far Tina kind of told us where she's been, where she is right now.
Yep.
I'm going to turn it over to you. Tina, I want to thank you so much. I'd love to connect offline and have a much deeper conversation. But
Absolutely.
I want to thank you so much for coming onto our show tonight and sharing, you know, at least for the first part of the show with me, your experience and your strength. And Dave's going to get into where the next phase of things look. But I wanted to thank you. I have to go. My kids have basketball practice, so I'm going to leave in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
But I wanted
understand.
to say thank you so much. And I look forward to our next conversation.
You're welcome. Me too. Me too. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate
And
it.
Dave, I'm sorry for calling you Parker.
Listen, quite frankly, if you've ever met Parker, that's a compliment.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'll take it any day of the week. So Tina, I first and foremost, I want to thank you for being so vulnerable about what you shared about tennis. From a personal standpoint, I am the proud stepfather of a 17-year-old daughter, and when I met her, she was 8 and already really, really knee deep into a tennis regimen, right? And was being coached by a parent who was a driver really similar to what you were sharing. And I saw from a third party perspective, you know, the psychological game, right? And the love really kind of moving away. And now I'm proud to say that, you know, this past year, you know, COVID took away the junior year of tennis, right? So the senior year comes and the case of the efforts was just there. I don't care if I play at the next level. I don't care if I lose every single match I'm going to play. I'm just going to go out there and actually have fun. Right. And it was the first time I think I saw her enjoy it. But I just really, as you were sharing that, I was really just reliving that deep emotional challenge that people face when they're really good at something, but the passion is getting sucked out of them because of other circumstances. And, you know, I want to thank you for that. And if I flip that into a business question for a moment, right? with the level of success that you're having, I can only imagine the number of clients that you're coaching on a consistent basis that are operating also at a high level. When you run into a client who is outstanding at something, but the love for whatever reason has been stripped, or the passion is leaving, and that was the foundation of what made them what they are, what do you do with them? How do you inspire them? Like, what are the things that you focus on? And I guess the other question would be, Tina, if you were looking at Tina of yesteryear today, what would you say to her?
Okay. So let me answer your first question. I go really deep with my clients. And like I said, if they're making an amazing income, but they're feeling burnt, I mean, look, we all get burned out. We all need to, I encourage taking some time off, resetting. I mean, I give everybody permission to do that, towards the end of the year, gear up for the new year. But if it's something that's habitual and it's ongoing, okay, and it's a deeper issue. For example, it could have been a great ride for the first 20 years, but the whole goal in life is to move forward. Okay. So something that was great for you for the last 20 years may not be great for you the next 20 years. Okay. And if you're doing this just because whether it's save face with your family or whatever, I don't think anything is worth, and look, we all have to pay the bills. I get that. Okay. But you know what? You spend 2/3 of your life working. Okay. And you either make your mind up to find ways that you can enjoy it, or you need to pivot into something else. So, I've had probably, I don't know, a handful of clients where I've given them my blessing and said, get out of real estate, go into something new. This year alone, I've had some with some health problems. And because of COVID and the health problems, and everything else, they're like, this is my last year. I'm retiring early. I'm like, give them my blessing. You know what I mean? You only have, I don't want to say you only have one life, because I do believe in reincarnation. That's for another story.
Yeah.
But, so I listen to what people are saying. And I think one of the innate qualities that I have is I see right through people. And, I'm also quadruple Scorpio, and we're known for being human lie detectors.
I'm married to a Scorpio, so I can validate that, by the way.
I'm 4. Okay. I thought it was a triple threat, and I looked at my chart the other day. I'm like, no, I'm actually 4. So you know how we are. We don't try and lie to us, right? And so I think that's also, between that and being an empath, and like, I don't care what's coming out of your mouth. I'm reading your body language. I feel your energy. So I would then try and see what they are passionate about. Well, I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. The best question if somebody is looking to switch paths is start with something simple like, tell me something you're curious about. Tell me something you're curious about. Because if you're curious about it, that opens up the next and opens up the next and opens up the next. And let me say, part of me doesn't feel like it's natural to be in one thing your whole life, unless you're expanding and growing. You're growing that company. You're moving into different levels of that company. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just hired I have a social media team, and I took the step and hired a right hand. I don't even call her an assistant. She's like my right hand person. I'm depending on her for strategy, for everything.
Sure. And you're scaling, right? Yeah, you're scaling at a level right now where that is an absolute must, right? Because you outgrow your ability to continue to grow your social media presence, right?
Yeah, you have to create a team. I just got done reading the book Who Not How. Have you heard of the book? It's by Dan.
Say that. Who Not How? No, I have not. I'm sorry.
Who Not How. It's by Dan Sullivan, and it's collaborated with Benjamin Hardy, who wrote the book Personality is Not Permanent. He's amazing. I've heard that one. And so basically what the book says is that, we've been taught to figure out everything ourselves. So how do I do this? Remember I was talking about earlier about how we get into anxiety and overwhelm, like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. How am I going to do all this? Right. And then, the thought might cross your mind. I need help here. I need an assistant. But two things happen when you think about that. One, I can't afford it. And two is like, we're taught to do everything ourselves. Don't be a sissy. You just need to do this by yourself, especially when you're a young company and you haven't made it yet. But here's the catch 22. If you don't make that bold move and actually bite the bullet and hire that person, you're never going to move forward after a certain point, because there's only so many hours in a day. So it was like kind of the same thing with me. It's like, I'm already paying this, I'm already paying that, and I'm like, I can't afford not to do this. You have to bet on yourself. You have to, and that's why the morning routine and the affirmations and the self-care and all that is so important, because unless you do that, you're never going to make that leap and bet on yourself. So every waking moment that you are not being in consideration of your family and your clients or whatever it is, absolutely put that into yourself.
We are Infinity X, giving the stage and microphone to human excellence. You can catch the replay of us on weareinfinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube, and we are joined this evening by Tina Marx. And if you have a question for Tina, all you entrepreneurs out there, which I can't imagine that you don't, please put it into the chat, and we will get to it during the course of the conversation. So, Tina, let's focus on Robin. When Robin left off, he was talking about where you're from and where you are currently. But let's talk a little bit about where you're going, right? So you're an accomplished author, you're an accomplished coach. What do the next 5 years look like for you, your brand, and you personally?
The broad answer is to help as many people as possible. And in order to do that, I have to take some of my time back. Okay, so I have probably 44 individual clients right now. You can imagine how many hours that takes out of my day.
I can. Yeah. Yep.
So, I have to learn how, because it's not even that I don't have the hours. Like I start usually at 8 or 8:30. I'll take a break. I'll go, because I have a gym right here on the premise. I'll go over and work out, come back, throw something. I mean, seriously, like a shake. That's it. I don't have time for lunch or anything else. And then I'm back on the phones, and I usually end around 3, where I have like you, or I'm interviewing somebody. And all these people are like, well, I work till 10 at night. Well, guess what? I get brain fatigue. I get decision.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
It's not that I don't have the time. I just don't have the mental bandwidth when I'm working with somebody all day long. So I would say trying to find time back and expanding so I can reach more people. That would be basically the broad answer without being too specific.
That's awesome. And by the way, I love your reference to Miracle Morning. My buddy Rock Thomas actually had turned me on to that book. And some of the premises, I don't profess that I accomplish a miracle morning every single day, but one of the things I have become very, very dedicated to is the time in the morning for my physical fitness, right? I think it's super, super important. It just gets your day motivated and started in the right direction. And my twin, Parker Russo, actually posted a question to the chat. And his question was, what does your morning meditation look like and how long is it?
Okay, so my morning meditation is 10 minutes long. That's probably the most resistant that I have. Of all the practices, is my meditation, because I have such a monkey mind, having 4 different kinds of ADD. So to be completely transparent, what's made it easier is one of the brands that I represent. It's called the Jovi Light. It's the red infrared red light for your face. I don't know if you know what that is.
No,
it's like a handheld unit. They have infrared saunas.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so it's the same thing for your face, and it's just a handheld one. And I just put these glasses on, you put it on your face, and it's timed for exactly 10 minutes. So that's, I have my eyes shut. I can't be watching something. I could be listening to a podcast, but I thought there's an opportunity for me to practice meditation 10 minutes a day. I'm sitting there, I'm doing that anyway. So that's how I practice meditation. But I've got to tell you, probably for me, the most instrumental outside of the gratitude and the affirmations, but maybe even before that, is the journaling. And Danette May, I don't know if you know who she is. She's one of my sponsors, and she's Earth Echo Foods. And I was interviewing her, and we were talking about journaling, and she says, "Have you ever tried this?" Because normally I would just hand a paper 3 pages long. That's how I learned it. When I was 35, through a book called The Artist's Way. She said, "Right? Do you remember that book?"
Sure, yeah.
Isn't that a great book? That was so transformational for me. Remember, it's got to be 3 pages. So that's what I did. But she says, right at the top of your page, write, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
You got to try this, David. You got to try this because it is like magical. Because what you are saying, you are asking the universe, you're asking God, you're asking your angels, your guides, people that have passed over, you're asking your subconscious mind, what do I need to know? And I am telling you, it just flows out of me. And it's like exactly what I need to know for that day. So, and then the exercise, yeah, absolutely. I do probably at least 5 days a week. If not, I'd be a real biatch.
Yeah, I know. I can identify with that. I spent most of my life being a bitch. Now here's another question that comes in from Tom Cabrali, which I like. What's the name of the movie or show that you referenced earlier?
The Miracle Morning?
Was it the Miracle Morning? Tom, I think we just referenced it. It was the Miracle Morning. I don't think it was a movie or a show, but
it's a book, but it's also a movie on Amazon Prime. They just made it in a movie last year.
Got it. Yep. And was the meditation?
Was she talking about the book? The book was Who Not How.
Oh, Who Not How. That's what it was. Tom Cabrali, Who Not How. But he does have a second question. Was the meditation self-taught or did you start with classes?
I did take, when I was in the desert, and I had a local talk show. I had 3 different shows down in the desert before I started my podcast years ago. And I went, and what I would do is I would interview businesses and then I would air them on the local Fox affiliate and NBC. Yep. So okay. I did take the transcendental meditation class. So yes, if I'm going to endorse a product, if I'm going to have them as a sponsor or, even back then, even to have them on my show, I definitely wanted to try your products or services. I still do that to this day. I mean, I can speak more to it if I've tried it. So if I'm going to interview somebody and they've got a product, like I had Heidi Powell on today. She was extreme weight loss. It was on for 5. So Heidi was on and we were promoting her 60-day challenge. But, she sent me her products. I mean, her stuff is like, I can't believe this stuff is good for you. It's like the one, it's chocolate and peanut butter. It tastes like a freaking milkshake.
How can that be good for you? That's like, that just doesn't make any sense. Now, Tina, let me ask you a question. Have you always been entrepreneurial?
Always. That's why. Yeah. I kept going from job to job. That's what I'm saying earlier. Everybody thought I was just flaky. And I don't like being told what to do.
Well, let me ask, when was the crossover point that you were like, okay, I've just had enough of this crap. I can't do where it is. I see something bigger for myself, or, like, what was that aha moment?
I think it was after I worked at Capitol Records in the A&R department, and I loved that. For a while. I think it was after that. Then after that, it was pretty in my mid 30s. I think, I don't want to be told. I liked working at Capitol because, I worked in the A&R department and go out and see bands all night. So like I could get in, I had, I wasn't punching a clock. I could get in there at 11 o'clock in the morning because I was out till 3 in the morning. So I think that's where the pivotal point was. It was like, somebody, and also I'm very quick in doing tasks efficiently and quickly. And I remember even there, I didn't feel like I was challenged. I'm sitting there going, okay, I've got to sit here till 6 o'clock at night. All my work's done. This is
like, what else am I doing? Yeah.
I mean, excuse me.
No. That's fine. That's fine. We welcome it here in Infinity X.
Act like I'm busy. I mean, I've got to act like I'm busy. I mean, that is just crazy to me. So I thought, it's funny that I've never been asked that question, but I think, what's been stored in the back of my brain just came out. That's the answer. I think.
Well, I love that, Tina, because I just from the 35 minutes or 40 minutes that we've shared right now, I would hire you as a coach because I can identify that you would focus in really heavily on accountability, right? Oh. It's not, because it's not just, everybody who has entrepreneur inside of them, whether they're pure entrepreneur or semi-entrepreneur or a fake entrepreneur, needs or has the grand vision, but needs daily accountability. The pandemic has kindled the hatred for the 9 to 5 and the entrepreneurial spirit in so many different people. And I think it's really interesting that you're coaching and working with real estate agents, because as Rob had mentioned, one of our ecosystem partners is large in the real estate investment world. And so a lot of the conversations that I have day in and day out, and I've been the benefactor of those massive inflows of meetings, right? I have, 50, 60 meetings per week, which I love. I adore it. I love what I do. But the conversations that I'm having are with people that are aspiring for change, right? Don't see themselves being overhead 5 years from now because they're afraid that they're going to get I can't tell you the number of times that I've had conversations with people who have been working for 1 or 2 employers for an extended period of time and then got let go because they cost too much, right?
Oh, yeah.
They become overhead, right? And what's the first capital that gets cut? It's human capital when things get difficult. So in this pandemic, when you had people that requested proposals with you or initial consultations, what were some of the things that you did to either coach them into moving towards a business goal or out of going after the business goal? Did you notice any dynamic in that space?
Well, I get fed clients, so I don't have to talk clients into coaching with me. I mean, I've got at this point, I've got a waiting list. So
that's huge.
And
that's huge.
and I just had somebody I was actually topped out, and one of the reps said, she really wants to be in your schedule. So I listened to her story, and I took her because I feel like she was really that committed. And that's the only people I take in my schedule now. I mean, my first year with him, it's like, I'll take anybody. I'll take a transfer. I'll take, and then I just learned, it's like, what, just because you write the check doesn't, some people believe just because they write the check that there's a magic wand. No, you still have to do the work.
Right.
All right. So I think, my clients, I've had clients in my schedule for, as long as I've been coaching with Tom Ferry. And it's funny that you say that, I do hold them very accountable. And the way they perceive me is not the way that I perceive myself, because I've had them get on and like, oh my God, I realized I had a coaching call with you today and I rushed to get that done, because I always give them action items, which is homework.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've heard them say, I didn't want you to yell at me. And I look at them and I'm like, I don't yell at you. And they're like, yeah, but you scare me.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes.
I think it's just my demeanor. I mean, I think it's a look of disappointment they don't want to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I say to each and every client, when I take them into my schedule, I say, listen, if you don't succeed, I don't succeed. That's how seriously I take it. It's not like, okay, collect my paycheck and move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you're just not disappointing yourself. You're disappointing me. So,
well, that's the whole thing. Isn't it so interesting though, that when you're working with a client and they say to you, oh, you're like, I didn't want you to be disappointed. No, it's not that you didn't want me to be disappointed. It's that you were feeling the disappointment that you didn't put in the work and you were looking for an outsource to blame it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I wasn't going to let you get away with that excuse. I had one of my first clients this morning was like, I know it's she kept right before she about to say it. I know it's an excuse, but I want you to help me. And I'm like, great. And what, there is something to be said, because sometimes you can't do it for yourself in the beginning. Sometimes you have to do it for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can you give an example of that? Yeah. Can you give an example?
Like with my son, there is certain things that it's like, I wouldn't have done it for myself, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it for him. I mean, he's the love of my life. And so there are certain, whether it was behaviors, destructive things I was doing, not great things. I want to be a good example. I want, going back to, we were talking about, I think it was with Rob, we were talking about kids and things like that. They're a sponge, and do I want? Yeah, they really are. And it's like, this is your number one job. I mean, my secondary job is to make the income and fulfill my purpose. But seriously, when you become a parent, who knew what you were signing up for?
I know. It's a jungle out there. That's for sure. And a couple of questions that are in the chat that are interesting. One from David Hammer. What's the name? Oh, first and foremost, what's the name of the infrared device and where can they buy it?
Oh, it's called JOOVV. So, and you can go on Instagram and just look up or you can just probably go www.joovv. And they've got the one just for your face. It changes. I mean, my brother's got the full body one, which is, I don't know if it's $1,200 or whatever. So, and then, it's amazing for you. It's amazing for your skin. It's amazing for injuries. It's amazing if you have a disease. It helps in, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And so I was taking a lot of those saunas.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So that's, yeah, I've got all that's why this is one of the reasons I love my podcast so much, because I pick the people that are going to be on the show of what I'm interested in. Doctors that I'm interested in, products that I'm interested in, services that I'm interested in that you normally wouldn't hear about in the mainstream media, because I'm really all about it, especially since the breast cancer. I was diagnosed, and my doctor had recommended radiation for me.
Hang on one second. Whoever that is, go on mute, will you? Somebody out there. Danny, do me a favor, mute everybody. Give me 1 second, audio visual. Mute everybody except us. All right, we're good. Sorry about that. So go ahead, Tina. The live show, I know, my God. They're breathing heavy on every single word.
Yeah,
that
I know.
like,
That
oh
was
my God, give me one.
So anyway, yeah, so I really got into holistic, everything natural. I didn't do and that was a big lesson for me too. I didn't do the radiation, and I did not do the tamoxifen. And I actually went on the alkaline diet. Do you remember the pH miracle? Okay, so I've interviewed Dr. Thinking now, what is this happening to me? Anyway, I went on the alkaline diet, and I never did the radiation, and never did the tamoxifen, and I've been cancer free since 2011. So that was a true testimonial. I just stay away from things like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the folks, I don't know if you have a relationship.
Robert O. Young, Dr. Robert O. Young. Thank you.
Dr. Robert O. Young. Okay. And now, does the name Dr. Jerry Tennant ring a bell?
No.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk after the show, because there's interesting introductions that could be made here, in specifically your disciplines. Friend of the show, Dave Hammer. Do you happen to know my good friend Susie Yaloff Schwartz, who owns Unplugged Meditation in West Hollywood?
Do I?
Yes, he was asking if you by any chance know who she is.
I do not.
All right. Maybe that's an ecosystem merger that we might have to to create. That's what
you'll have to
Infinity X
send
is.
all this. Yeah. Send all that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well,
Unplugged meditation. So does she do online meditation? Is what she does?
Dave, put it into the chat of what she does, and let's see if we can create an ecosystem merger. That would be fantastic. Thank you, buddy. So let's go back. You mentioned podcasting, right? You have control, right? When did you break into or move into the world of podcasting? And what was your strategy going into that?
Well, I already had years and years of local talk shows. I had 3 different talk shows down in the deserts, spanning over 8 years. Mm-hmm. So that was, it was such a learning curve, because the difference between that and a podcast or a YouTube channel is you have to find sponsors, because, I had a 3-camera shoot. I mean, each show cost me $4,500.
Man.
And that, was included in, airtime and this and that. And I was naive, and I was hopeful, and I felt like I was betting on myself, but, numbers weren't like, it's going to hit, it's going to hit, it's going to hit. And then it definitely hit. I mean, it was the worst couple of years of my life. I lost everything. I lost the show. I lost my boyfriend. I had to move out of my house. I mean, literally had probably $10,000 left to my name. I mean, it was like a rude awakening. And that's really where my faith and my spirituality with God there were, I've said this before, there was so many times that I was like, I was contemplating suicide, and I kept thinking about my son, and I'm like, that's why that's where I was going with that before. And I'm like, and then I just kept hearing this voice, just keep going, just keep going. And now I realize that I actually brought that all on myself. And it's like, why would you bring that on yourself? Because I came from an affluent background, because I was left a supplemental income, it's like I never really felt like I could do it by myself. So between the message that my father was like, you're not good enough, you know what I'm saying? Not feeling like I was good enough, worthy enough, deserving enough. You know what I mean? It's like, can I really stand on my own 2 feet? Yes, I did. Like when I was working back in Capital, but once I had had my son, I was relying on this. And it was like, I think it was like God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, ripped the rug out from underneath me and said, you're going to either make this, you're going to make it, or you're not going to make it. But if you're going to make it, you're going to really understand how capable, how worthy, and how deserving you really are. And so I got through it. And the last thing I thought I would ever get back into is, another show. And you know what? I really, truly believe that when something is stamped on you for your purpose in life, you can't turn away from it. You can turn away from it for a little while. And once I got back on my feet, that's exactly where I went. But I was all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? This is what happened. I didn't even do a podcast. I was thinking, I can do that. How can I do this without paying the camera people and paying the airtime? So I Zoom, because I was already doing Zoom calls with my clients. This is way before COVID. Because in the beginning, I'm like, oh, this is going to look so homemade. I'm like, I got to do something. And then now everybody's doing Zoom. I mean, like, I'm way ahead of the game. And then I'm like, well, and then he was part of my team at that time. He says, well, why don't you do this, put this into a podcast too? I mean, you got the video and you've got the audio, because some people don't want to sit down and watch a video. Some people, sort of appeals to everybody. So that started, where are we? Almost 2 years ago. I'm thinking, I think in September, it'll be 2 years. So, so maybe a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
I think about a year and a half. I'm not sure.
We are Infinity X, stage and microphone to human excellence. We're joined by Tina Marx. And the podcast, the podcast is called Transparent with Tina. Transparent with Tina?
Yeah.
Yep, Transparent with Tina. We got Tina TV, Tina Marx, TinaMarx.com, I would assume. You can also find her on Instagram, 180,000 followers strong. Replay, we are infinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube, and just recently Spotify, we are Infinity X as well. Tina, let's go over to business for a moment, right? So we're, we're at 32-year high in inflation, right? We still have this global pandemic taking place. We just had Omicron, right? And all the things that are taking, transpiring in the health world. But listen, fiscally and fiscally, economically, we have challenges here in the U.S., right? It's not easy now to be running a business. We might have tax reform coming down the pipeline. What are some areas that are stumbling blocks you're seeing people run into that are business clients of yours, and what's some of the pivot points or advice that you're offering to them in as they try to navigate and move forward in these challenging times economically?
I'm going to go back to mindset. I have clients that are kicking ass, that are, I have one client, okay, that she took a hold of it and ran with it with mindset. Okay. She got a hold of, do you know who Abraham Hicks is?
Sure. Yeah. I know the name.
So so she got into those teachings, and I am telling you, she has manifested her business because of her right mindset. She catches herself when she's getting into a lack-based mindset. She doesn't prospect. It just flows to her like the law of attraction. Okay. She made, her, and she's really interesting because she won't let me make a bigger goal for her. Like for next year's goal, she's like, no, let's just keep it where it is. Cause I do have some clients that are like, they know themselves well enough. They go, you know what? I don't do well under pressure, And so, she had a goal and she surpassed it by $150,000 this year. It was just crazy. And she goes, whenever I feel a little bit, of lack or whatever, I just go back to my teachings. And really that's the only thing, because why can look, in this pandemic, there's a great opportunity to make a lot of money. You just got to be resourceful. You got to get out of your own way. You got to stop listening to any kind of self-limiting belief thoughts, or stop going on the gravy train with the person next to you that's going, oh, it's really hard to make money right now. Okay, well, do you want it to be hard to make money? There's many people that are taking such advantage of this market right now.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, you've heard of the Great Resign. right? It's
Yeah.
a great design. That's the one thing the pandemic did for a lot of people. They went, you know what? They reevaluated their values in their life and what's really important to them. And they're like, screw this. I don't want to work 80 hours a week for somebody else and make little money. I'd rather go buy a house, maybe in another state. And, so I can have my home office and enjoy my life. So, I said, like, I get to the nitty gritty of what is really making that person on fire or what's really dragging them down. And we go from there. And I always go in the best direction of the client. Not, because for me, I'm the messenger. I'm just there to support and help you along and to guide and direct you on your journey and to listen to you. Because you know what? Once people start talking, they tell you who they are. They tell you where, it doesn't, you have to be a good listener, and you've got to kind of, you got to be good at listening to really where the problem is.
That's incredible. Tina, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've shared this evening. I mean, you're absolutely, listen, I would be lying if I didn't say that Rob and I see you in our future. I think that who you're coaching and your alignment is very, very similar to what we do. And so I think that there's a lot of exciting conversation to be had as we press forward here. But I do have a very, very poignant question, something that's been popping up in my head, because you're somebody who obviously has persevered through struggle, right? In different phases of your life. And when you look at your son, right, just as I look at my daughter, I look at my children, my other two children. When you're looking at your son, and your son, you don't have to say how old, but I would imagine he's either preteen or
he's going to be 18 in February.
He's going to be 18. Oh, okay. You don't look old enough to have an 18-year-old. God bless. But an 18-year-old, right? Your entire future in front of you, right? Your entire future in front of you. When he looks and says, Mom, I want to invent is he saying to you, number one, I want to invent my own path, or what type of career is he aspiring to look at, and what type of advice are you giving to him? Because I think
I was so glad you asked that question, because I was going to bring this up earlier, because there was something that somebody had touched upon, and I'm so glad that's so strange. He's calling right now.
Oh, tell him I said what's up.
I will. So it's really interesting because, Deepak Chopra, you know who Deepak Chopra is?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So he had told a story about his two sons. When they were younger, he said to them, listen, I am not going to tell you what to do with your life. All I want you to do is pay attention to whatever that is every morning that you get up in the morning that makes you on fire. I want you to go after that. I don't care if you get straight A's. I don't want you to think about money. If you become an adult and you can't support yourself, I will support you. I just want you to focus on what lights you up. And I told my son that. Okay. And I continue to tell my son that, because, I do not want to pass on, especially after my dad. My dad wanted to be a tennis player. I didn't want to be a tennis player. Yeah. And, it's like, I really believe that when we come into this world, we know we have a stamp on us, as long as it's not tainted. He knows what he wants to do. So he wants to be a YouTuber. Okay. And this is a really cool story. So his favorite YouTuber is David Dobrik. Do you know who he is?
No, I would feel like I should, but I don't.
You should. He's got 18 million followers on YouTube. He's got 13 million followers on Instagram. And so, to promote, our, between myself and, he's almost 18 and he's a boy and I'm a girl, so we sit there and we watch, and I love watching him. So what he does 4.5-minute vlogs, and he and his friends, they're his vlogger friends, they're his real friends, which I found out, from Chicago. They just go around doing funny pranks, never at the expense of anybody else. And they go and surprise people. He is like a philanthropist comedian.
Okay.
Okay. And David Lerner, who I was interviewing, because he's like, oh, I know that's what he is. I'm like, you're absolutely right. That's what he is. He's a good guy, and he's just extremely successful. So my son and I were watching, we had just moved here, like I said, in May, and he graduated a year early. He didn't want to go to college. I knew that's what he wants to be, a YouTuber. And we were watching one of David's shows, and I said, well, how are you doing with your vlog? And he goes, well, Mom, all my friends are in the desert, because he's had a really hard time meeting friends here.
Okay.
Because he's not, he was working it in and out, and he's not going to college. So, as a parent, when
Mhm.
your child is hurt, you can only be as happy as your child is happy. I mean,
100%. 100%.
so I got this crazy idea to DM David on Instagram.
Ah,
And I wrote him this thing telling him exactly what I was going through and what happened. And I forgot about it. Crickets. 2
Mhm.
weeks later, I'm sitting on the couch with my son, and I get notifications when somebody's DMing me, and it's David. And he's like, "Hi, don't tell your son I'm responding." Long story short, this guy came down with all the people on his vlog and surprised him. I
oh
mean,
my gosh.
it was like it was bigger than if I were to meet who I don't even know who I'd rather meet. Like seeing, I
Yeah.
couldn't have paid for anything bigger than that. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I
So,
know exactly what you're talking. That's like if Tony Robbins knocked on my front door,
and, and to
Like,
me, yeah, that was also a sign from God. It like lit a fire under him. I said, you need to eat, breathe, and sleep this. Do you know what I mean?
yep.
Because there's so
Yep.
many people out there that want to do that. And let me tell you something. If he wanted to do this and I didn't think he had any talent, I would try and gently steer him the other way. But I'm telling you, he's got what it takes. But he just needed that kick in the ass and that shot of inspiration. I said, that camera's got to be glued to you. Okay.
Mm.
You got to be thinking
Yep.
of stuff to,
Yep.
you want to do this, I'm behind you, but this is what it's going to take. And he's watched
Unbelievable.
me do this. And so, I think that helps him too.
Unbelievable. And by the way, Parker says, no way. I love Dobrik. Is there a video of this?
Yes, I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Well, my son he's going to be on David's blog. David
Oh my God.
filmed
That's
the whole
incredible.
thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, my son filmed it, and then I'm walking behind them filming it. And it's really funny when I send it to you. It's really cute because you have to listen because my son's going, "No way, man!" Because he's in shock. No way, man! Like, how'd you find me? Did you find me through my vlogs?
Yes.
And
Yes.
David's like, no, your mom wrote me a really sweet message. She really cares about you. He's like, well, you don't follow me on my vlogs. He goes, I will now. He let him drive his car. I mean, oh yeah, it was a day we'll never forget.
Oh my God. That's a
Kid's
good.
amazing. Like the energy when you get near him, it's just crazy, that guy.
Yeah. By the way, the chat is absolutely blowing up right now. People are asking, please link it up on here. We'll
I
post
know,
it.
I know.
Yeah,
Everybody knows who this person is. Everybody knows who David Dobrik is.
I mean, unbelievable.
Except
Unbelievable.
you.
I know, of all people, right? Seriously, I'm the one hosted the show, right? Infinity. I don't even know. I will by tonight. I will probably binge watch about 12 hours of that.
Oh,
overnight.
you will. It's
You
so
know?
much fun to watch him.
Yeah.
Any age group, seriously. I'm this guy, and now he's got a podcast. Now he's got a pizza thing coming out too, and yeah, he's really pushing his podcast right now.
Incredible. We are Infinity X, given a stage and microphone to absolute human excellence. Tina, I love what you're up to. I thank you for, our listeners every single week are incredibly loyal and are constantly coming back because we feature people that have a message of experience, strength, and hope, right?
Mhm.
You have experience, you have real life experience, first and foremost, and the grind of being a single parent is one that I have the highest respect for. I married one and I honor you for that. It's the most powerful job that you can have and also the hardest. And so I really,
Yeah. Thank
really
you.
honor you and respect you for that. Absolutely. She is an accomplished author. She is obviously an incredibly accomplished coach, and she's doing really, really, really big things in the world. The very last question, and what I would ask you to leave our folks with tonight, Tina, is when you, to quote my partner, when you shuffle off this mortal coil, right? When you leave this world, what do you want to be remembered for?
Making a difference. Making a difference in other people's lives.
I got to tell you, not to be cliche, but you certainly made a difference in all of ours this evening. And I am so excited to watch your continued trajectory. And like I said, I see you in our future. I think we could do some things together. So folks, we are Infinity X. This is Tina Marx. Replay on weareinfinityx.com. We are Infinity X YouTube, and we are Infinity X Spotify. And you can catch Tina on Transparent with Tina, both YouTube as well as on multiple podcast verticals. And Tina, I can't thank you enough for being on the show tonight.
Thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. It's been great getting to know you and being on your show.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The pleasure was ours. And folks, again, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Happy New Year once again from the family at We Are Infinity X. And until next week, we will see you on another episode of Infinity X. This is Dave Harder on behalf of my partner, Rob Gill, thanking Tina Marx, signing off. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Tina.